Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Matchup Report. Here with another episode to talk some basketball after an All Star weekend and some other crazy drama that we may have to discuss going on. But very excited to talk some NBA as always. I'm here as always, Tyler Blankship, with my co-host Jason Nieves. Jay, how you doing, man?
I am good, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about this All Star game or All Star weekend, I should say.
Yeah,
'Cause to be honest, it wasn't bad. I genuinely liked most of the weekend, if not all of it.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, even if it is bad basketball, it's still basketball. We're gonna find some way to enjoy it, even if whether it's good or bad. So yeah, that's kind of the realization I came to after this All Star weekend. I was like, you know what?
I
Like it
just want
wasn't
better.
perfect, but it was basketball, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna enjoy it. Um, but all right, yeah, let's get into it. Like you said, All Star Weekend just happened. There was a lot of changes to the format, how they were doing with the All Star game itself, the timing of how they're doing things. Like the 3 point shot wasn't like scheduled when it normally would. Things are happening earlier. And some of that had to do with like the Olympics, I think, and NBC or Peacock, whatever you want to call it, hosting everything. So a lot of differences in this, some good, some bad, and of course with All Star Weekend, there's always the media availability of not just of the players, but of certain coaches, executives, and of course Adam Silver. He always has his big press conference during the All Star Weekend, and that always is interesting. Always a lot of conversations that come up with it, like a certain hot button issues, and of course this year the main thing has been tanking and the punishments that have gone with that recently, and how the league is reacting to it in general. So we'll get into that a bit as well. And then, of course, we'll just talk about some other fun stuff that happened over the weekend and a retirement, as well as a look ahead to what's coming up here as we get closer to the playoffs. So lots to talk about. Excited to talk about it. But let's start with the All Star Weekend, man. Do you want to start with the game itself, or do you want to go into like some of the other smaller things that happened?
Yeah. So let's start with the 3 point contest. It was the
Yes,
first event of the first event because I don't count the Celebrity All Star game. It's fun. They
I
do a
don't.
little thing.
I
It's cool that they have Giannis like be the coach because he's like if there's anybody you want to like kind of interact with the celebrities, it would be him. But
Yeah,
to
you can
the
get him on his betting app.
to the 3 point contest itself, it's one of the things where it's like you can't mess it up. Like I really like people were saying that about the dunk contest, but like literally, it's like all right, you can look numerically and say these players are the best 3 point shooters or historically are some of the best 3 point shooters. All right, get them in the contest. And this is what it just happened to be, where you have a Damian Lillard who still is recovering from an Achilles injury. And it was like, all right, like I think when we both first saw him, it was like, oh, like that's cool.
Yeah,
What like how far along is he like for them to like have confidence in him to go out there? To be fair, he is standing and then shooting and running a little bit, but like even then it was like, well, this is still pretty impressive. Like to have him in this type of spotlight. But I think like yes, and he was the big winner of the contest. Spoiler alert. But I was actually really impressed by Concanopoulos. Like he had
yeah.
a really good first round. Disappointed in the second one. But I think for a rookie to come in and make that type of impact, to me, he's what I would classify as a winner in this, even if he didn't win the trophy itself.
Yeah, I think he had like 27 in that first round or whatever, and it was like 29 in the last round that won it. So yeah, great job by Khan, which to be expected. I mean, if you've watched him play this year and seen him shoot the ball, it was kind of like, yeah, this is kind of what was expected of him. Devin Booker, obviously he made it close, with a little disappointing in the end there, but oh yeah, for me it was like I'm such a big Damian Lillard fan. He's like the main reason I even like care about the Trailblazers in the first place. Why they became like my second team. So when he was first announced, I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "How?" Like we haven't really seen him publicly like out there like playing basketball like that for a long time. So and then like I feel like we get less updates on his recovery process than we do like a Jason Tatum. Well, obviously different circumstances, but so yeah, it was kind of like just surprising to see him included like that, but like a happy surprise because he's so good at it. And then he comes out and wins it, which is like it's his fourth one that he's won or something like that. The weird one I saw was that like he's participated in it 4 times at least, and like it's split between the Bucks and the Trailblazers or something like that. And I was like, he really didn't do it that much when he was with the Blazers. I don't know. Weird thing, but yeah, like you said, like extremely cool to see him come out and win that, coming off like still like you said, recovering from an injury. So awesome feat for him to do that. Was there anyone in the 3 point contest you were disappointed with? Like oh man, like you expected more from?
I think coming in, maybe, well, okay, Tyrese Maxey for one.
Yeah,
That was the biggest one I would say. And just off of pure 3 point percentage, Bobby Portis, I thought he put up a bit of a better fight. Because my first thought was like, really, Bobby Portis? And you look at the numbers and you're like, I mean, shit, like he's shooting well. Like I can't like hate it. But it's a different spotlight. And I think like it's a different spotlight, but at the same time, it's like you're still just shooting 3-pointers. But I guess there is the whole timing aspect to it, which I think is a bit underrated. Like when you're talking about what goes into winning these type of contests. But I think Tyrese Maxey, for me, was a player where I was like, ooh, I like. Not that you're like he's a light up shooter like a Steph Curry or Damian Lillard, but like I just wanted to see a better performance from him.
Yeah, if they had made the moving shooting threes, then maybe it would have been better than that. But yeah, I obviously as a Sixers fan, I want to see more from him. But in the end of the day, it was cool to see Lillard do it. But yeah, like the 3-point contest is always like it's something you really don't need to mess with. Like it is what it is. It's fun. It's always one of the more like entertaining staple moments of the All-Star weekend.
Even the small additions they've made with adding the deeper extra 3-point shots. Like I really like those as well, especially when you have players who pull from the logo. Like you like adding that is just a really good niche to it that I think like hell maybe they do add moving threes next and then we see Tyrese Maxey take this home. But I think it's one of the staples of the All-Star weekend, which has stayed the same for a reason because you can't really mess it up.
Yeah, 100%. All right, then there was the Rising Stars game was after that, right? Or I forget. I wasn't paying as much attention to like that day as much as I was the others, but the Rising Stars one, it was like VJ Edgecombe took over for Team Vince Carter. You had Team Melo, Austin, McGrady. It was entertaining. Like they were clearly trying. Like guys like VJ Edgecombe were clearly like, okay, like I'm taking this serious, and you could tell even afterwards. Like the award meant something to him, and it was cool to see Tyrese Maxey supporting him as well, like cheering him on. But I don't know. Like the format was cool. Like the format for those as well as like the classic or not classic, but the regular All-Star game was like I enjoyed the format.
Yeah. So correction, the Rising Stars game did happen that Friday night, so it was right after the All-Star game. I don't know why I thought it was like the before. I thought it was on the day two, around the same time they did it, but so I was wrong. So there was something that did happen then. But I will say, like, I think this was the first taste of like the format that we would later see come with the actual All-Star game, and I really liked it. And I think the twist of adding in the G League team as well, I think really like helps them get spotlight, but also you get to see potential of like, oh, this is a G League player who like is like hooping, and I think like there wasn't any like there's a lot of like former players that like go to G League. I know Victor Oladipo, T.J. Warren is with like Worcester Knicks. Like these are all players that like it'd be fun to see in the Rising Stars. Like obviously they're not considered Rising Stars anymore, but like it's just like it shows you the level that like it takes to be at the G League, and the fact that like you can still see some of these players that potentially could make NBA rosters at some point in their career is just really cool. And then of course you compare that to these young and hungry rookies as well, and it's a perfect dynamic, which I think the Rising, like if there was one thing besides the 3-point contest, once again because you can't mess it up, I think the Rising Stars contest, the way it was just like perfect, like in terms of the format and just being able to showcase both young talent and the G League talent.
100%. And it was cool seeing my guy Young Hansen out there. He was actually like he was doing a good job with him and Niederhauser, man. Like the G League team actually they were putting up a fight, so that was really a lot of fun to watch. And I think that's the part of the point of it too, is like you're seeing these like non like household name guys like go out there and compete, where it's like, hey, maybe one day they will be a household name. So like you said, that was really cool to see. I enjoyed watching the Pelicans rookies and Fears and Derek Queen. I'm big fans of them. So it was cool to see them as well go out there and perform. So I don't know, like it was a good time.
Yeah.
All right, and then after that, do you want to talk about the dunk contest? I'm so over the dunk contest at this point, man.
So I will say I'm an optimist. So I like to start with the good moments, and I think like Carter Bryant was at least trying some things, and I do think like there were a couple of dunks where I was like, I'm impressed. Like I like that. But at the same time, he just had to actually make a couple of them. And I think there were a couple times where it's like, oh, like he's wasting out the clock because he's trying to do things and it just didn't go well. But you could see the intent of doing it. So he's one of the players that like I don't think we've seen too many repeat losers besides Aaron Gordon. But like I wouldn't be mad if he was like to try it again next season. He's only a rookie, and like he comes back with some more innovative dunks, or comes back actually making some of the dunks that we've seen him try. But you compare those, that like a good moment, like a good player in a good moment like that, to like Jace Richardson almost taking himself out.
Yeah.
On the one dunk, Jackson Hayes accidentally throwing down a normal dunk somehow, which I was watching, and they were like, oh, like I think he was trying for this and just realized he couldn't do it, and just dunked it. And I was like, that was the first moment where it was before the Jace Richardson fall, where I was like, yeah, I don't know about this year's dunk contest, but I was like, that's what you're doing. And then once again, Jace Richardson, like I was like, oh, like where's he going with this? I was like, oh, it's looking good, and he's down on the ground. And it was just one of those things where it was like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I know like there's going to be a lot of talk about like the dunk contest and everything. And we'll talk later about like what exactly some changes that we make to the All-Star Weekend. But I think just because of it's been such a staple of the All-Star Weekend for so long, it's difficult to get rid of it. And I like the idea of even like bringing back some of the old dunk contest champions and having them vote on these type of things. Like I think like there are positives there, but it's like I don't want to say like you're not getting like top talent, but like respectfully, like Carter Bryant, like Jackson Hayes, like I think if you're looking around at the dunk contest, and even when they were announcing these players, I was like, oh, cool, but like, is there a big name in it that we can like, kind of like look at and everything, or at least like no? And of course there was all the controversy about like Mac McClung, and him not being in it this year, and there's been like conflicting reports about if it's like more of a him thing, or if it was like some of the players were like fed up with like him, like which is crazy, because like if you're
upset about him winning it like that, then participate.
Yes, and which I think is exactly what Adam Silver was like, is why he's going back to Mac McClung every year to be like, hey, like, I know he's not in the like league, but like still, this man is willing to put on a show for the people. Like I think that means something.
Yeah.
But we don't know. Like it could be a him thing. Like, hey, I'm tired of being like brought up to a team around this time of year just to be in the dunk contest. Like you don't know. But
I don't know if he minds the extra money though.
Yeah, but I at the same time, I just like I understand all the complaints about the dunk contest. I still think that it's such a staple of All-Star Weekend that it's going to be really tough to get rid of.
I agree. It's just one of the things, like, I don't know how you improve it. Like, everyone, and like you said, we'll talk about this later, but like how you could maybe improve it. But it seems like it's the same narrative and same conversation every single year now, where it's just like, okay, like, let's just move on.
Yeah.
All right. And then, all right, I just want to go straight. Like, let's talk about the All-Star game itself, the format. Yeah. Because it ended up being better than, like, everyone was going into this with skepticism, right? Including me. Like, I had it up on like a second screen. Like, I was like, all right, like, I'll bring it up. Like, and I'll admit, one of the only reasons I was kind of like, maybe something will happen here was not because of the format. Like, the format is what it is. Like, I don't care how you set up the format. It all comes down to the players and their choice and, like, how much effort they're willing to put into it. And immediately when you saw Wemby just going out there and trying to kill people, like, first bucket, like, sealing someone off and then dunking, I was like, okay, like, he's clearly taking this serious. He was getting upset about defensive like rotations where people not being in the right spot. The game ended with them losing, and you could see him visibly upset. Like the first game, like you saw him visibly upset with Cat, which for his defense, which welcome to the entire Knicks roster. But like it was fun like seeing him like take that serious, and it was him taking that serious, which kind of like woke everybody else up. And especially in later games, we saw that wake up like Anthony Edwards, who was basically like, okay, this is what we're doing then, and you guys are going to give me these shots, then fuck this. Like, I'm going to take these shots and we're going to fight back, which it's kind of annoying to a point where it's like, if this is really all it took like one superstar to be like, hey, no, like we're actually going to do this. I'm going to force you guys to compete. That does kind of make some of the other older superstars look bad in my mind. But at the same time, like, the All-Star game has just been on this trajectory for so long. Like any semblance of effort like this is like, because it's not like they were playing 100% out there, but like all we've been asking for is like 70%, like the summer league stuff that they do. So it was just like, just give us that, and that's what they did, and that's what made it fun to watch, and it made it exciting. I mean, and then my favorite part of the entire thing was Kawhi Leonard. I mean, he had that 31-point game. I mean, he was killing people, defense, offense. He was making like crazy contested shots over people. Like it was the effort for him, and for him to be able to show out like that in front of his home crowd, because it was hosted in Intuit Dome with the Clippers. Like that was it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'll say that like I think I really like this format, but my question is how sustainable it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that like was the big thing. I was like, oh, this is cool, but like, what about like next year? When I was like, all right, like I like the idea of like, all right, you have the young USA team, you have the OGs, and then you have the world team. But like, you don't know how many of these OGs are going to be able to play come next season, or what that even looks like. Like, look at Chris Paul and everything. But at the same time, you have such like an immense talent. Like you mentioned, like Wemby, and you see Ant trying at everything. Like these, I think the game is in good hands when you have these players that are coming in to take it, into a new direction and come into this like with like fresh blood, like and like kind of clearing the slate of like, all right, like we understand how things have been done the past 10 years, and we want to push it in a better direction. And for me, I think a lot of the effort comes from the fact that they kind of have to, like, especially with doing these smaller teams, you're forced to play like more effort because like you can't just hide on the end of the bench and be like, oh well, East West, like there's 12 of us on each team. Oh, I'll get my 5 minutes or whatever to go out here and pull from the logo. Like it's like, all right, cool. Like you actually have to play and have to like be a part of the game and not just like sit in a corner. But that doesn't take away from the fact that like you're still seeing a lot of great effort from a lot of great players and players who were making their first time appearances actually taking it seriously.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said about like, is this sustainable? Because even in past years, like remember, I forget which year it was. I think it was like early 2020s where they had the one where it was like the fourth quarter, like whoever won, like the charity thing, like, and we saw some like real effort from that one, especially in the end. And at that one, it was kind of like, okay, cool, like this is a good format, like, and then they change it every year, even if it does work or like it makes it a little bit better at least. But a lot of the players were saying that they liked it, but then at the same time, a lot of them were still saying like, well, I don't understand why we still can't do East versus West.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of that was from the older players, but I don't know, like, but this is also like, I'm not trying to be like put this like blame solely on the players because I do think there's like a whole league thing here, but hearing the older players sometimes talk about the All-Star games, it's like, yeah, but this has been on you. Like you're the ones playing the game. Like there's only so much the league can do, and I hate that I have to almost defend Adams over here. I'm not trying to, but there's only so much he and the league can do to make you play like serious basketball. You know what I mean? And they're not even asking you to play. No one's ever asked these guys to play like 100% go all out in the All-Star game. They're just saying like, hey, 70, 80%. That's all we're asking for. And every format that they've tried, it's like there's only so much they can do to the point where it's like, okay, we roll the ball out, and now what? Like at that point, once the game is playing, it's up to the players. And if the players aren't taking it serious, then we get what we normally get with the All-Star game. So it's kind of nice to see, what you may consider like a try-hard and Wemby go out there and be like, no, fuck this. Like I take this serious. I want to play basketball, and I want to compete against some of the best players in the world. That's why we're here. And so to see him go out there and just like I just feel like some of these guys are just too worried about like looking like a tryhard. But I want that in my athletes, right? An authentic like player who wants to go out there and compete all the time. And for a league that like puts Kobe on a pedestal and worships his methods in the past for like how he the Mamba mentality, how he went about it. It's so like not controversial, but like polar opposite, where you see some of these older players who were around Kobe like saying like, oh well, like who cares about the effort, like whatever, and like they just like lackadaisical about it. But it's like you can't worship the Mamba mentality and then go out there and not compete when you're on a court with a basketball. Like to me, that's just, it doesn't match.
Exactly, and it's like you said, it's hard to defend Adam Silver, but
Yeah.
like I once again like the idea that he's not afraid to like go at it and change it to try to get results with this. And I think now it's just like, how do you shape it to continue to make it sustainable so that players are continuing to try? And I agree with you. And I think part of it is just like, unfortunately, like letting the old guys complain about it more. Cause like, who cares? Like at this point, like I don't want to sit there and say like, oh, it's like, old man yells at cloud. But like at the same time, it's like you get to a point where it's like you're watching these older players complain about it. But like, they're like we've all been like watching the same games and the same results where it's half-assed, and it's like, oh well, like I don't want to watch this. Like you're losing viewership, and nobody's kind of caring about it. And like I get it, right? To them, it's like, oh, it's a recognition, like it's supposed to be a break for us. But at the same time, it's like if you're a top player, it's an additional like thing for you. And I think like if especially if like you're trying to get back into the mentality that the All-Star game actually means something, part of it is actually taking it seriously. So it's I think it's a lot of effort that needs to be done on both sides.
100%. And maybe this was, I mean, we've said this before, but hopefully this was a step in the right direction. But we'll continue to see. And it is mainly now the onus is on the younger players. And this was a good step in that direction.
So I'll transition a little bit and say like okay. It is currently 9:05. As let's say at exactly like 10 p.m. there's a breaking Shams tweet, and it's like Adam Silver stepping down as NBA commissioner. And all of a sudden, we are being hired as co NBA commissioners, and their first task for us is to reassign or like work on the All-Star weekend. They just say, "Hey, fucking fix All-Star weekend. You've seen what it's been in the past. You guys take care of this." What would be your first move?
Ooh. First move is I think we need to actually define and establish what we think the All-Star weekend needs to be. Because I think there's varying differences here. Like the current league seems to think that you need to invite as many social influencers as you can, so that everything is digitally out there, and you're just trying to get as much basically bandwidth as you can with focusing on NBA All-Star Weekend. I think it needs to be more of just like it's All-Star Weekend, but it's supposed to be a moment to honor and appreciate and just have fun with basketball. Like it just needs to be about basketball. So I think my first change would be just to, I mean, it's tough, obviously. I'm not saying it's easy, but anytime you pick one of these cities, you need to focus on the legacy of these cities that host the NBA All-Star Weekend and make it about the legacy of basketball in that city, and then as a whole, just the legacy of basketball in general. There needs to be an appreciation for the game that we all love to watch and play. So I think that needs to be first and foremost. And then encouraging, like I said, this format was fine. I kind of am in the same boat of like I would like to see it still be East versus West, like that classic mode. But then I don't mind adding like the subtle changes in there. Like the world aspect of it was cool, but I don't even know if I've answered the question. This is a really tough one because like I don't know what you do. To me, and maybe this is like an older man to me, where it's like I just think it needs to be more of like go back to more of the classic format. Like some of the newer games that they've had have been fun, but go to more of the classic format. But then just put more emphasis on the game of basketball itself and the legacy and like the appreciation that we all have for the game itself, rather than trying to make this more of like a digital world, like like we're all together or whatever it is that they're trying to do with all the social media influence stuff. Like just focus on the game and basketball itself.
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna cheat a little bit,
Okay.
and like break my own rules in this. And my first move as NBA commissioner would be to abolish the NBA in season tournament, because I
Oh, I thought we were just talking All-Star game.
okay, we are, but you gotta let me
Okay.
get. So I think the money that they have for the NBA in season tournament, and you're supposed to get this prize for the winner, should be put to actually use it for the All-Star game, or the All-Star weekend as a whole. Because then what you could do is you could have a 1v1 tournament. You could, which I think is the ideal.
That is something that definitely needs to be added.
And when you have the 1v1 tournament, you can say, hey, we like once again you abolish the in-season tournament. You use that money there. You can say, hey, winner gets this much prize money or whatever. That way you see like obviously I know like for some of the older players, like it probably doesn't, they got like contracts and sponsorships and they made a shit ton of money, but like either way, like you can get the young hungry players like who are like, oh shit, like like I can make a little extra money, like
Well,
from
and
that.
then also with the money thing,
Context.
I don't think you could say that like even the older players wouldn't care about the money, because as we're seeing with all these negotiations and talks about like shortening the season, all these players clearly seem to worry about that extra little bit of money they would miss out on if they played like 12 less games. So clearly that even the small margins, that small amount of money, it does matter to these guys.
Yeah. I just think, and even if that is that's all it takes. Like, cool. Like, use the money from the in season tournament that they would have won, take it and push it to the All Star weekend. And you can use that for the dunk contest, use it for
Yeah.
3-point contest, use it for a 1v1 tournament, and you'll see that like maybe you'll get more dunkers who are like, hey, like I get there's money on the line, like it's not just like, oh, go out there with pride. Like I think that would go a longer way than what we've seen right now, because clearly it seems like money is the thing that motivates them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't know if there's a lot that I would take away from the All Star game, but I think adding things like the one-on-one tournament would be sick. And I think that's something we'll probably end up seeing next season with how it's being talked about, like the player support that it gets and the success that it's having on the women's side, who have done that extremely well, and how entertaining it is to watch Paige Beckers like just destroy people. So like that aspect of it, I think is coming. The only thing I might take away is the celebrity All Star game, because who cares at this point? Like I really like who's tuning into the NBA All Star game or celebrity stuff to watch Shams do nothing? Like
Okay.
like who cares?
Oh, I will say the one thing that I would take, like I think keeping the celebrity all star game, because it was, and this is mostly like
Who's that for though? Like what audience? Like what audience is like, oh, I can't wait to watch Matt Ishbia play basketball?
it's more a like it's because it's a staple kind of. I think the past like a couple, not the past couple years, for as long as I can remember, especially like, okay, what comes to mind when I think about this is like the reign of Kevin Hart, where he was just doing like funny shit on the court. And I was like, as a kid, I fucking loved it. And I like, and when he retired, I was like, damn, like it like it like feels different. And I think since then is like you'll see like, oh, like random celebrities pop in and who can actually hoop, like one of the Migos. I think it was Quavo, Offset, whatever. What they all look the same.
I think Quavo, yeah.
I think it was Quavo.
They all like to say it was crazy, but yeah.
Rest in peace, Take. But yeah, like okay, like having them, like they could hoop. When they do NFL players like Puka, Miles Garrett can hoop, but I don't think he might have done one.
He did last year, but he's a little busy this year. But yeah,
Obviously, either way, like that, I guess messy contract wise. I don't know, like I don't know if NFL teams want to see their top, star out there trying to pull out dunks or
oh
whatever.
hell no!
Like,
With the money they gave Miles Garrett this last offseason, no, I wouldn't.
yeah.
Hell no.
Either way, I think it's cool for that aspect to see like and I even like having like seeing Shams in it, because it's like, oh, you constantly hear about Shams is breaking this, Shams breaking this. Like, let's see Shams on the court breaking ankles. We didn't see that at all, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
but like, can he get a bucket without someone copying and pasting like him telling him how to do to score a bucket? I don't.
it also is weird when you have like Taco Fall in it, like.
That was
That was the weirdest thing to me, where it's like, all right, like I understand like he's not an NBA player anymore, but like he was
he's still actively playing professional basketball.
actively playing professional, and he is like, you can't put anyone on the other team who can stop him, because he's 8'11". Like
I would rather see more recently retired basketball players like a Jamal Crawford like out there hooping.
they had like white chocolate. I would have loved to see
Yeah,
more.
that was okay. I'll admit that part was like kind of cool,
Like
but it's not enough for me to be like, oh, I have to tune in to watch
Yeah.
these celebrities play shitty basketball.
I think it's fun for the entertainment purposes, but it is one of those things where it's like you don't want to change too much of it, but it's not necessary. But you look around and it's like, oh, it's a fun little addition that I think encourages to have more celebrities there and have more fan engagement. But I think it's cool as it is for right now. Like, you're not like, I think it's like oh, it's fun, it's harmless. You don't gain anything from it, but you don't lose anything.
And I think part of the problem too is, and maybe this is just because I'm getting older, but the term celebrity is, I think, losing its meaning more and more when it comes to this, and just in the world in general. Like, a celebrity to me is someone like Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like, that is like a celebrity. But then you have like a social media influence out there where I'm like, wait, what does this guy do? Oh, he makes Legos on YouTube. Like, cool. I mean, great. I wish I could have a career off of that. But like, this is like our celebrity that we have for the celebrity game. Like, I don't know half these guys because they're just like social media people. So it's like, all right, like, I guess.
I will say I kind of agree with you in that, and obviously I'm a little bit younger than you. So
A little bit.
I know like a little bit more of the people, but even then, like I was going through the list with my girlfriend, and I was like, she knew some of them better than me. It's like, oh, this person really, like this person's like, she was on like one person was like on the Secret Life of Mormon, like Secret Life of Mormon Wives, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? I was like,
Or is it the Real Housewives of Salt Lake?
yeah, something
There's so many Mormon
yeah,
reality TV
something
shows.
like that, and I was like, really? I was like, I guess they get their audience because she was like, oh yeah, she said she could like hoop, and there's this whole like thing behind.
Maybe you know what? Maybe that's what it is. You and I just aren't the audience for it, and that aspect of also Weekend is to get fan engagement from people who don't normally watch basketball.
Exactly.
Maybe that's where we're just messing this up.
And that's why I think it's harmless and we can leave it alone because it really is just like, oh, it's for people who are like they want to see Nick from Love Island out there, like just playing basketball or whatever. Like it's like goofy fun, and I think like you can get like from an NBA perspective, you get multiple different audiences of like people who are fans of these TV shows and movies, and you can say, all right, like we didn't lose anything from this, like it works.
Yeah, I think if anything, they need to have like a basketball media game, kind of like how Missoula forced the Boston media to play the coaches. It would be cool, like Shams is an extension of that, but like what, like let me see like Kenny Beecham out there going against Stephen A. You know what I'm saying? Like let me see a bit of that.
All right,
That might be.
okay. Off the top of your head, pick your starting five for your media team.
Ooh, starting five is that's tough. Okay, starting. Oh, can it be former players?
Yeah,
Oh, see, that's the tough part too. There's a lot of so much of sports media now is former
Just
players. So.
Tell me you wouldn't want to see Shaq and Kenny, both of them on like half a knee like combined out there, just like run, like even if they were like, all right, we don't want to make you run up and down the court, just do like half a court. Like,
Well, it'd be funny as hell to see like Kendrick Perkins get like crossed up by like Kenny Beecham. Like, you know how funny that would be? Like a guy who like talks so much crap on the game, and you watch him get crossed up by a social media guy. You'd be like, all right, like come on now. I don't know, because then I'm thinking like you get like some of the Club 520 guys in there. Like, how do you like?
getting Club 520 would be like perfect. Like
There would be so much trash talk. It would be a lot of fun. But then then you get bragging rights as like for like your podcast, like oh like I got like the media trophy or whatever from the All-Star game. I don't know who all would be involved because I don't know which all like social media or like basketball media people can actually hoop or would be willing to play in it. But
I think
yeah,
it'd be cool to see like Jeff Teague out there, Jeff Teague, Kenny Beecham. I'm putting together my team in my mind. Jeff Teague, Kenny
oh my,
Beecham.
would Legler go out there and shoot some corner threes? Like I don't know. Richard Jefferson, like if you got like some of the former players.
Be on the squad because I still think he can move. I gotta add Shaq just because he's dominant, and I think if we said, hey Shaq, you got a month to prepare, I think he'd be ready to go. And then after that, those are all. That's four. I'm cheating.
Like Bill Simmons, like what if Bill Simmons got out there and started trying to hoop? They made him play against a former Celtic. That'd be or like a Laker. That'd be great. It's like yeah, him against Shaq. Shaq would love that.
Yeah,
Or Max Kellerman out there against Stephen A. in a one-on-one. Yeah, this is how you settle the media beef. You have them play one-on-one.
that'd be. I'm on board. I'm on board.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, is that it for like the All-Star games and okay, cool. Because we had to move on to a lot of the stuff that was talked about over All-Star weekend. The main thing that was talked about, the biggest headline that's come out over the past couple of weeks, and generally even before the All-Star game was going on, is all of the tanking conversation that's been happening between, it's been a conversation all year between teams like the Pelicans, although I don't know if they're trying to tank. I think they're actually trying to win. They're just not good. But like the Jazz, the Pacers were both fined, and we'll get to that in a second. But then you have teams like Brooklyn that have been, talked about this. Sacramento, although Sacramento's not a team where I think they just might just be bad.
Yeah.
But there's a talk about tanking and like how the league's been handling it. And they recently fined, it was $500,000 to the Jazz because I think it expanded over their whole Florida trip between them playing Orlando and Miami. And then the Pacers, I forget which game it was that they played, but they basically fined the Pacers for arresting Pascal Siakam, which I thought was unfair because he's played 51 of the 55 games for the Pacers, who have been decimated by injury since last offseason when they lost Tyrese Halliburton to now where they've had guys like Obi Toppin and others out. Like they haven't had a team to put on the court for the most part of the season. So I wouldn't consider them tanking. Like especially when your best player available has been playing most of your games. And then like so to me that was one of the situations where I was like, I don't know if Pascal kind of deserved, like if there's a good player and a bad team that deserved a break, it might be Pascal Siakam, who's been playing all these minutes for you. But then the Jazz find was a little bit weirder because they said it was for the trip, and then they specifically called out like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen sitting for an entire fourth quarter. But that fourth quarter that they sat out, they won that game. So you basically fined a team for winning a game because you didn't like that they didn't play their stars. But it was like, well, Sensabaugh was popping off, so it's like it's kind of like a murky situation. But then this only cascaded and got worse because they're like, okay, this seems like the reporting and the rumors were that like you're also kind of bending the knee to sports betting, where they're upset that like these players were taken out and that affects the betting odds. And then it kind of came out in reporting earlier today that actually may have been true, that they had an influence in Adam Silver wanting to like fine and penalize these teams for tanking because of the sports betting, not because of the game, but because of betting, which is becoming more and more ingrained into basketball and sports in general, and for better or for worse, and for all my money that I'm not spending on betting anymore, like it's just making things worse and worse. But so that came out and everyone's upset with them, and of course now it's become kind of like the Jazz have come to this poster chart of like, oh, like we're not even actually like tanking like that, like we're trying our best, but like we've had injuries too, and like we traded for Jaren Jackson Jr., but he had a problem with his knee. It was like Jaren was saying that he wanted to play at least one home game in front of like the Jazz crowd before he was shut down for the season. I'm like, okay, I guess like it's a lot of like, I guess I can sort of believe in it, but at the same time, like you're not gonna see me like defend the Jazz like that. Like I can understand why they'd be upset, but I'm also upset that you built a statue of a pedophile. But like which one are we gonna do here, right? So like the tanking stuff is we can cut that if we need to, but like the bottom line with the tanking thing is it has gotten out of hand, but the part of the reason why it's gotten out of hand is not just because of the teams and organizations, it's the league itself and how they have flattened or expanded the odds of you getting these lottery picks, where now it's easier for a team like like last year. I don't want to say it was easy, it was like a less than 2% chance, but we saw the Mavs get that number one overall pick when they were a team that wasn't even like supposed to have any chance to get that, when teams like the Jazz and the Nets and whoever else were actually like just bad teams that I guess you could say deserve that pick more. So now it's become this whole conversation of, okay, what do you do? How do you stop tanking? And now the overall, like the big media push and NBA push has been the biggest talking point is now just, they're talking about just abolishing the draft.
So I've seen a couple of things, and I have seen the abolish the draft thing, which I think is honestly the worst option that they could do.
Okay, see, I'm interested to have a conversation about this because I'm like a little bit of like I'm in, but I'm not.
My thing is right, like it's really a reward for like one way or another. The NBA is setting themselves up for teams to once again find ways to cheat the system, and in this case, it would be all right. Like if we're heading in a direction of we're not good or we're mediocre. Okay, we have players with high contracts. All right, try to get them out of here, like or whatever it is to like free up cap space to go and attack these young players. But at the same time, I feel like it kind of almost cancels itself out because it's like young players would have the choice of that. But I don't know. I think the draft is one of those things that like is essential to sports. And I think especially the NBA and just like the way it's been operated, and especially even when it comes to like contract incentives, like how would they even go about like sitting there and saying, all right, all these players are suddenly just releasing a free agency, like how like the mass chaos that would result in that would be insane from like a logistics standpoint, because like do they just say like, all right, like at 5 p.m. AJ Dembélé is available, like the chaos that would cause would be insane. So I think about it from that perspective, and then it also leads to tampering beforehand, where you have teams interacting with players. Like I once again feel like one way or another, the NBA is setting themselves up for teams to find ways around the system, and to attack it, differently. And then we're going to get to discussion again of, oh, well, this isn't working. We need to come up with a new format. I think an option that I've seen be thrown around is if Adam Silver loves tournaments, doing it in a very end of the season tournament.
I've seen this joke. Someone made a video. They were like, anytime Adam Silver sees a problem in the NBA, he's like,
yes,
make him play a tournament.
But to be honest, like, I think that'd be a better option than abolishing the draft, because then if the NBA is concerned about making money from it, they get the profit off of watching really shitty teams, and also I think that also incentivizes teams from fully shutting down players for the entire season. Like, we wouldn't see Jaren Jackson Jr. get shut down from the entire season if the Jazz know that they potentially have to play a game at the end of this season or two to actually lock in a number one pick or whatever it may be. I think, like, if there were options in my mind, I would honestly rather keep the current format before going with either option of the two that I just mentioned. But if I had to, it would be like, all right, like, current draft format number 1, tournament 2, and then abolish the draft. I'm putting that down at 5 and putting 2 more potential options at 3 and 4 that we haven't even named yet.
The abolish the draft stuff was like, it's interesting to me in like almost like a thought experiment kind of thing, because I don't know how viable it actually or if it would actually work. Clearly they're seriously considering it, but the logistics behind making it actually happen, and what do you do with all the picks that have been traded, and how do you, like, it basically becomes like a signing day. Like, it becomes like a college system. Like, it's just, you have signing day, and it's like, who committed where, what are you going to do? And then there's the murky conversation of like, well, the big market teams would have an advantage because they're bigger markets. They're in more favorable cities. You think about like LA and New York, like they would probably have like a crazy advantage. But at the same time, when I was looking at like what could be like the good side of it, there are ways where I think it could work, because while like you see like with baseball, right, like the big market teams have like such a huge advantage, because partly also because they can just spend so much money. Well, the NBA also already has a cap and a floor, so that would already be working well for you, where it's like, yeah, like a lot of players may prefer going to New York or LA, but there's also only so many roster spots that you can have, and only so much money you can still spend. So it's not like all the talent is only going to like 4 teams. There is enough talent in the NBA to be spread around.
Yeah, and tied to that, the competition as well. Like, but this, like, it's like you said, I think it's a thought experiment, because if you have a number 1 overall prospect who's looking at like the Lakers, and you have the 2 and 3 pick who also, like, hell, the Lakers are like an appealing thing. Like, you're not going to get all of them.
Yeah. But then you also have to consider, like, there's already so many good players at those big markets. Like, how much playing time and how much of a role are you going to have on a team that already has a Luka on it, or a Jalen Brunson and a Cat, and all the other players that they have there? It's like there's other things to consider when you go with it. Like, not everyone's going to flood to these markets when. Like, how much playing time are you actually going to get if everyone is trying to go to the same spot? And we're also seeing other smaller market teams have success. Like, it's not like SGA hasn't been able to like find a way out of OKC if he wanted to. Like, he has stuck with OKC, and they've built up that championship team that they just had, and that was in a small market, right? Anthony Edwards is in Minnesota, although the rumors about him going to Atlanta are pretty funny now. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like it's impossible, but at the same time, having to do the whole logistics of getting rid of the draft, like, it wouldn't be something you could do immediately. You would have to like put like hey, in 5 years, we are getting rid of the draft. So all these draft picks that you guys have been trading, anything past that is null, and everything else until then you can use. But then, just so you know, this is happening. And I think it would also. It would be like the MLB thing, where it's like the serious organizations will make serious moves and put the investment into their scouting and development departments, where it's like that kind of would matter a little bit more, because we know who the superstars are, but we also have to find and sign these guys and convince them to come here that are like, hey, we see you as someone we can develop into being a star here in our city, in our organization, want to invest in you. So I do think there's other aspects to that, like the team building aspect of it was like really interesting to me, where I was like, how you would go about it without the draft. I know you're smiling. You're giving me the smile you give me when you're like, he's being a sicko, but like,
no, it was more thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. There was a part of me that was like, this could be cool and it could work. like the NBA's current like ecosystem, the way it's set up with the floor, the cap, and the penalties that come with the overspend, and just the amount of roster spots that you have in general. Like there are part of it where I'm like, it could work. Now, do I believe this current administration within the NBA could make it work, or that they would actually take the proper steps and not mess it up? No. Do I think it is the number one solution? No, but I also don't know what the other good solutions actually are. In my mind, I think you just need to go back to where it's like, the draft or lottery is fine. You just need to change the odds. I think the recent way that you changed the odds screwed everything up, where too many teams that are like, oh, you're like the 10th worst team, like you're a fringe playing team, and now you got the number one overall pick. That should not be how it is. Like I do truly think like it should be like the bottom 5 teams or however many it is. They should only be the ones that have the chance for that. Whereas like a team like last year with the Mavs, it was like, how the hell are they getting Cooper Flag?
Yeah. I got a couple of things and I have a question. I started smiling because I started thinking about your analogy of like, oh, it'd be like high schoolers going to college. And I was like, all right, like, to what degree would we see, teams start to go all out for players and trying to make these appeals? Like, do we have JJ Redick staying over at somebody's dorm to like, talk with them? Probably weird.
Oh yeah, the recruiting process would be a little weird. Yeah.
I was thinking about like, oh, like, like how like there's all these things about like, college coaches, sleeping in their recruits like basements and everything to like, seal the deal. And I'm like, that'd be so funny, like hearing like, oh, JJ Redick did a dorm visit for this player.
I don't know if it would go that far. Like,
Yeah.
I still feel like it would be generally like their recruitment like aspect of it would still just be the same way that they scout and like
Yeah.
do their research on these guys.
I
I don't
just-
think that would change too much.
I just think if teams are trying to find an edge, and obviously not to that degree, like I think we would potentially hear stories about like, oh, this player's doing this to like try to sway the odds in their favor or something. But I just want to ask you like, what is so bad about just doing it flat out how the NFL does it, where it's worst team gets the worst pick, or the best pick I should say, because then I think at that point the onus is solely on the team to fuck it up. And I think we've seen that where it's like, all right, Browns, all right, you get top 5 picks almost every damn year. Do something with it. Oh, you don't do it? Oh, we try. Like you were put in the best positions possible. We had nothing to do with that. And I don't know, like, and naturally it probably has all to them, hey, why don't we just do it this way? But I think the NBA lottery, like, it leaves teams like the Jazz stuck in purgatory where it's like, all right, you're constantly hoping for, a top pick to rearrange things. And yes, you do hit, or relatively hit on your players when you do have the opportunities, but you're never, you're always the bridesmaid, not the bride. Like, when are you going to get a top, pick a Cooper Flag or hell, anybody in the last 5 years? Like, any of those players would have, put the Jazz in a much better position. So I don't know what to me, I don't understand why there's such a hesitancy to just say flat out, if you're the worst team, you get the best pick.
Well, I think it's just the biggest thing is tanking, because if you're just constantly taking and trying to get like, okay, I know if I'm the worst team, I get the best pick. I think maybe then you try harder to tank in a way. Whereas like, not that these teams, there's a way to try harder to tank, but it still gets the overall problem with all of this is the tanking and how do you get rid of tanking. And I just, whether or not you have lottery odds or you're just the worst team gets the number one pick, you're still going to have people who are trying to lose so they can get that better pick.
My thing is though with that is that like that would, if you do it the typical format of worst gets best, like you're tanking realistically for like it's crazy to say, well, the tanking would be shorter, but it would be. Like, think about it, right? Like,
well, if you can draft well, I think that's part of it too, is like, yeah, if you're getting all these like higher up picks like the Browns, like, can you trust them to make the right picks? And that's where I think an extension of this could be, where it's like, if you get a top 5 pick 3 years in a row, and like after that, I think it needs to be like 3 strikes you're out. Like, if you're still picking top 5 after 3 times in a row, then I think you just need to be held out of it. Like, you need to be barred off from it from a year, because it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you've done this much. Like, we gave you 3 top 5 picks in a row, and you couldn't make your team good enough that you're still now one of the worst teams in the league. Then there needs to be a different conversation.
I just think the tanking is a lot less egregious and a lot less longer and drawn out. If the team is just like, I don't want to say like you tank successfully, you get the pick, but I think right like I think it would be much easier and it'd be better for the NBA as a whole in terms of league-wide competition. And it's the same way we see it in the NFL, where yes, you have your dominant favorites, but every year there's reasons why they don't get there, and I'd say that when we did our NFL show to start the playoffs, it was looking around and saying any of these teams can win and any of these teams can lose. And I think the NFL is in a state where, for the most part, it is really a game of conservation and a game of luck and who is healthy towards the end of the season to make these impactful plays. And I think a part of the NBA has that same level of luck to it, where it's like we see a team like OKC make it deep and win the finals because of their depth, because of luck with injuries, and relatively luck with injuries seem to hit them this year. But either way, to me, it's like you can have a team like the Jazz. All right, tank 1 year, you get Anthony Edwards the next year. You're not going to be in the tanking conversations, come the next season because you have an Anthony Edwards that you just drafted, or a Paolo Banchero, a Cooper Flag. Like these things are like, not to say it's easy reward, but I think it would solve teams tanking consecutive years. If you do get the number 1 overall pick, you get this player. Oh, you literally can't, hide because from the draft lottery or the draft, because you literally just don't, like, your team is progressing, it's getting better. So I think to me it would be much easier that way.
Yeah, my biggest concern with this is just like, what is the motivation behind all of these changes? Like, what is the motivation behind tanking, and what is the motivation behind the push to absolve the draft and tanking in general? Where it's like we're hearing from reports that your guys were complaining to Adam Silver, saying like, hey, this team is tanking, something needs to be done about it, or like the betting companies were contacting the league saying like, hey, this is screwing up our business, you need to do something about this because we're in bed together now. And then so it's like, if the motivations behind it aren't for the integrity of the game and more for like the bottom line, that's where I get annoyed. Also, just real quick, with your team, comical that y'all are complaining about tanking after those 20 and 24 win seasons where you were resting SGA for like significant portions of it on his ankle, right? And we can get that in a second, but it's like, it's also, the tanking conversation has become toxic because it's like, well, when my team tanks, it's fine because we had to, like, we had no other choice. But when this team tanked, that is stupid. That's awful. That's against the integrity of basketball. Look, man, as a Sixers fan, I feel like I can talk about this in some sort of like experienced way. We were at least open about it. We made a whole slogan about it. We fully accepted it and embraced the tank to the point where it's like we had trust the process, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't be ashamed about it. Yeah, screw it. Who cares? We're Philly. We a fuck. My problem is when other organizations like the Jazz clearly do tank, and they're like, oh, how dare you accuse us of something like that? It's like, dude, come on. Like, we see what's happening here, all right? Like, you're clearly doing it. Just own up to it and just be like, yeah, look, our team sucks. We're not where we want to be yet, so we need to tank and get better players. Now, can it be argued that there's better ways to go about it and that they already have a base that could go out and compete? When you have Lowry marketing, you just added Jaren Jackson, your younger guys like George and Collier and Sensabaugh are all hooping and doing what they can. It's not like you don't have a team that could, like, at some level compete in a play-in or a playoff game. But the point is you want to get past that. So how do you do that? Like, fast track it. And I don't know. And that's the thing too. It's all about fast tracking it. And it's like, I wouldn't mind seeing more teams just take the long road. Develop your players, draft smartly, make the right moves in the offseason to build up your team over time rather than always trying to tank and fast track it. And that's where it bothers me, where it's like you're tanking so that you can get this one player basically to save your franchise, where it's like teams now need to go like 10 deep to even have a chance to compete. So the fact that you're like, okay, well, we're going to tank and get this one good player, then our franchise will be safe. But then that's not how it works. You're going to have to keep tanking several years if this is your method to a point where you get to where you want to be.
I I agree with you to some degree. My biggest thing with the Jazz is once again you mentioned their entire roster. Like those are all guys who you can say like reasonably go out there and get a bucket first. Go out
You have a
there.
defensive player of the year, former All Star with Laurie Market and Jaren Jackson Jr. And like, what are we talking about?
You have talent all across your roster. You look at some of those, and yes, like I'd be idiotic to sit here and say like, oh my god, those were the worst years of my life watching OKC early 2020s basketball. Like it wasn't that dramatic, but you at the same time you knew like they were cooking something. Give it a couple years. This team is going to draft well. Sam Presti has shown that he can go out there and get exactly what you're looking for. And it wasn't a situation of and I think like you mentioned like yes, Shea magical injuries. I'm hearing things that I'd never heard of at that time, like random shit, like his plantar fasciitis or something. Like
Yeah.
I remember looking that up and being like, I have no clue what this is. Like, but all that to say is that even with a Shea there, they don't they don't end up like I don't want to say like with they got a second overall pick that year, and got Chet, but at the same time it's like I feel like one way or another like it all catches up with you, and I think that's is just where like we should leave this is that like it's clearly messy, and I think that like you mentioned it's going to be a discussion over the next couple of years of how to do this. Like this isn't something we're going to see them snap their fingers and say, all right, end of this season, free agency for all the rookie players. Like it would cause chaos, but it's going to be constant talks, and especially the way Adam Silver is like constantly consistent with, all right, we're going to try new things. We're going to want to, push this to try and get new solutions for these things. But
Can I ask you something? I just thought about this. When they're gonna be voting on expansion this summer, and most likely it'll happen, and we'll have a Vegas and a Seattle team, and then they're talking about like moving like a team like Minnesota to the East or whatever. Cool. In that expansion draft, when they take the other team's players, don't they also get like early picks in the actual draft? Like, wouldn't that be how it would work?
they would have to. There's no way.
So then, if you're tanking, like how does tanking work that season when you're like, well, okay, Seattle and this team automatically get like this pick?
That's good.
That I don't know if that was just kind of like a random thought. I don't know exactly how an expansion draft would work in that way. Because I know you get to pick players from other teams, and you get to pick like what teams you want, like players you want to protect up to a certain amount. But then what happens when you get to the actual draft? Do those newer teams get to pick first? Like the WNBA didn't the Valkyries? When did they pick?
I am fully blanking, but I do know that they were able to like picks to some degree. I wish I had the stats on that.
Yeah, because I remember the expansion draft for that was cool, and like when they got like Kate Martin and everything. But
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole logistics of the NBA right now, I think my biggest thing, like you said, we have to end it here because we got to move on. But like the biggest thing to me is the entire league and Adam Silver just need to take a step back and realize that like there's problems that need to be fixed before they focus so much on expanding, and then not just in the U.S. but like internationally, like 'cause they're trying to make it is a global game, but they're trying to like get a legit foothold. Like it seems like Adam Silver basically wants to compete with soccer, which is never going to happen, and I think is a stupid idea. And they need to focus more on the domestic audience, and then the international audience will actually kind of just take care of itself in my mind because of just what the game is. And I also like, how much do you actually need? Like, why is this so important at this point? Like, how much more money do you need to make for that? Like, how much? There's going to be a breaking point where the game is so diluted and affected negatively by how much you're trying to do all this other outside business stuff to the sport itself, that it's going to make the sport itself worse while you're just trying to affect your bottom line. That is my biggest concern with all this, and that's why I think the commissioner and the league need to take a step back, fix these internal problems first before expanding and doing whatever else.
I completely agree with all of you except one point where you called it's soccer, it's football. So make sure you get that right next time.
Do you want to get in this argument about, because they called it soccer, right? Like that they called it soccer.
We'll save it for another day.
Cool. Yeah. Whatever. Also, I'm an American in California, so I'm gonna call it soccer. I'm sorry. I grew up playing the sport. I never once called it football. I called it soccer. Okay. I played it for like 16 years. I wasn't out there on American soil going, hey, you guys gonna go play some football later? Like that would stupid. I'm not gonna get pushed into a locker. All right, let's move on. Okay. So next, there was some. All right, let's get into it because I already made it like my subtitle here. So, look, there was some drama that happened over the All Star weekend with one of our favorite players, Kevin Durant, and apparently,
Players.
how can you, as an OKC fan, not love Kevin Durant? I know what happened. Listen, and I know when I say that, I know what that brings up. But are we not far enough removed from it at this point where you still
No.
can't appreciate?
I sit here and
Just as a basketball fan, how can you not love Kevin Durant? He's one of the best scorers of all time.
as a basketball fan, I appreciate Kevin Durant. I also like that he is well.
Yeah.
And this is what we're kind of transitioning to.
Yeah.
I like that he is relatively like I think so many times the biggest who am I to say this, but I think NBA players at times are sensitive divas. All sports have sensitive divas, but
I mean, you're that good. You're going to have an ego, and it's going to get
Yes.
affected.
And I think he's one of the players that I think he's able to put his ego aside and actually go at and have conversations with fans and engage with audiences on a level where it's like, oh, like you can, not to say that he's not human, but you can see that like he isn't like letting it get to his head. He isn't being a diva and being like, oh, I'm too good to sit here and interact with fans on a personal level. With that being said, I still don't like him as an OKC fan.
I can understand that, but I'm just saying, like, anyways, I'm a big KD fan. We both respect his game at the very least. And then, so yeah, this stuff comes out about him with apparently with the Houston Rockets. He's got like several burner accounts. Oh, I need you actually wait, hold up, because yeah, I need you to explain it to me.
So it wasn't just the Houston Rockets. It was also when he was with the Suns.
It went that far back. Okay.
Yes, and I'm gonna read through some of these because it's now I've seen it be deemed on X / Twitter as the KD files, so it was basically leaked, and it's allegedly these are all from a burner of Kevin Durant, allegedly, and these were all. So I'll read off a couple of these. These were all under the account name of Get Off My Dickerson, which doesn't. I don't know if that makes him any less innocent or not. But this, I'm reading through the KD files as we speak. But remember, these are all alleged. These are from his account. But I will. That's all I'm going to say.
But perception is a reality, and everyone's perceiving this to be Kevin Durant.
So from this account, Get Off My Dickerson. I can't trust Jabari to make a fucking shot or get a stop. Just don't give him a tech free throw, to be honest. And then he says he's low key. I'm not going to say the word, but basically makes fun of his mental brain capacity in a way that I cannot say on this podcast. He then transitions over to Alperen Sengun. Coach called that play to pass to Alpi. LOL. I'm going to turn the ball over with this shitty ass team. I don't give a fuck. Your franchise player can't shoot or defend. That's a way bigger issue than my turnovers. Remember, these guys are your future. These Rocket fans are hurt. Let's see what else we got here. So this one is from his time with the Suns. Somebody I sent him the message. It was like, I guess it was one of his stat lines, and it says, "Life with Devin Booker and Vogel." Someone else responds to it and says, "All this because Book returned." Get Off My Dickerson comes in and says, "Two dictators, Stalin and Hitler, Mussolini and Kim Jong-un. The Suns are my team when we lose, and Book's team when we win." What else we got here? Another one. This time about your guy Ben Simmons. Couple laughing emojis. He said, "I really gotta laugh to stop from crying," and he follows it up with, "I swear I miss Ben Simmons." And he says, "At least that brother would give me the ball." He doesn't say brother, but. I thought that was pretty funny, not gonna lie. any word about Jokic turnovers. He makes fun of Jokic in one of these. Okay, not gonna lie, it's one like once again, these are all alleged, but like this one, it kind of made me just like giggle. Um, and I guess these are all in a big, like relatively big group chat because there's like 11 people that laugh emoji did. Um,
What
and
group chat is this?
good question. And how wasn't it at least sooner if it was a group chat and you know you're with Kevin Durant?
Was he just like in a burner account in a just random NBA group chat
Okay, but
online?
I think, and this is what makes like once again all alleged, but for him to like the person to be like, oh, like to make these statements saying like, oh, like the D book thing where it's like, oh, it's D book's team when we win and my team when we lose. Like these type of things, it makes sense to what we were seeing in the media where it's like, oh, like Kevin Durant can't get them over. Kevin Durant needs to do more. He's a legend. He needs to get this team, over the hump to win games. And we would constantly hear these things about Kevin Durant, which is when like this all comes out and we haven't heard a peep from Kevin Durant popping out because typically he's very quick to respond to these type of things and say LOL like y'all reaching or this, and we haven't heard any of that come you start to look around and say, well, what is true and what's not true, and that's kind of still what we're deciding, but let me pull this one up. I thought this one was better to just like show instead of me say it. If I could just get to it. Yes, go ahead.
So there was a reporting too that the Rockets had a team meeting about this where they addressed it. They're like, hey, like, is this you? Are you talking shit on us? And then I guess like the report was that he left. It was like I don't know if he was embarrassed, but he was just kind of like, all right, fuck all this, and just walked out. But
which doesn't help his case at all.
If they have like I said, a lot of this is like we don't know 100%. But it's the fact that it's believable is where it's like, like
this one. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I genuinely laughed at because like it's funny by itself to be like, oh, like like thinking about like Steph Curry and like how at times like the one thing you could poke about in his entire career is his defense.
Yeah.
And potentially this is what Kevin Durant is on him about. Like it's just. It's funny, and the Raptors, he follows it up with another thing. So this not only was the Rockets, it was the Suns, but also the Warriors. And he said since MJ punched or get off my Dickerson, said since MJ punched Kerr in the face, he don't fuck with dark skins, which is kind of going crazy. Then he once again brings up Ben Simmons is going through depression. He ain't playing ball either. Why would we trade Kyrie for a brother who hates basketball?
Hey, good point. He's not making terrible points in a lot of these, if I'm being honest.
And these are the type of things where it's like, from what we know about Kevin Durant and the things that we see from his interactions with Twitter as a whole, like you start to think like, hey, like this sounds pretty familiar. But once again, these are all alleged. There's plenty more. I bet it's also around.
Do you think he has to address this? Like, because he hasn't yet.
Yeah, I mean he's going to have to, but I think it's going to be in a Kevin Durant way where it's maybe just like, oh, like you brush it off, or try to like sweep it under the rug. And I think there's the media buzz around it is way too strong for him to just push this away and say, well, like. Try to play it off in a lackadaisical way to be like, hello, well, like everybody, like it was, like it's nothing.
Well, plus now, if they're going to be under the microscope, or if there's any interaction that he has with his coaches or his players where it's like negative from the outside, everyone's going to look at it like, oh, see, he doesn't like his team.
So this other one, and not gonna lie, this is the one where I was like, once again, like, is he wrong? So once again, somebody in what appears to be the group chat says, pull the numbers for all those guards. I bet it's similar all around. And get off my Dickerson. Sorry, every time.
It's such a good name.
Replies and says, that pick disproved it, though. That's the point. LOL. I wouldn't say Kai, referring to Kyrie Irving, was competing with me. but that light skin and that triple double cocaine bear was. Um, which I was like, well, like I wonder who that light skin is, and I wonder who that triple double cocaine bear is. Like these are all things like where like you look at it, and you're like, oh, Stephen Curry, Russell Westbrook. I like it lines up with Kevin Durant, some things he would say. But once again, it's all alleged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man. If it is him, it's unfortunate. It's sad that he's got to like go out there and like use burner. The whole burner thing to me is well, it might be triggering for me as a Sixers fan with Colangelo, but like just the whole thing is always just so weird. Like, why are you spending this much time under a fake alias, like, or just under an alias, talking about these things and that are like get kind of personal? Where it's like, dude, like just get a therapist at this point. Like, do you not already have one? Like, someone else to talk to? Like, get these things off of your chest. Like, why do you have to get these things off of your chest to other people? Because then it makes me think, like, oh, are you just trying to get more public favor? Like, because now it makes me think, like, okay, the people talking shit to you online are actually getting to you so much so that to a point where you had to make a burner account to try and defend yourself. And it's like who, like, for the guy who's one of his most famous moments ever as a basketball player is him sitting down there saying, like, do you know who I am? Like, come on, man. Like, this is not where you need to stoop to.
Yeah. So I'll just read off some final ones. If you don't screen and pass up shots for Steph, you getting waived. I miss James, man. Slightly delusional, but I understand him. And this is my thing is that it seems like they understand that he's Kevin Durant as well, or this person.
Yeah, that's where because he's saying like he's talking in first person.
Yes, exactly. Which is what makes me like, not gonna lie. I feel like if you're and there was at least 11 people that replied to that laughed at the one message that I just showed. Like all 11 of them know it's probably Kevin Durant if he's saying these type of things and he's speaking from the first person allegedly. So it's like, it genuinely is like kind of really like just perks your interest and curiosity of like, oh, like to what degree was this like this thing happening, or like this is just a bit of it, like what more is there to come with this potentially. So it's just kind of crazy throughout all this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where it leads to, if anything actually comes out of this, or if it just all gets swept under the rug and it's like whatever. But
I don't think you can sweep this one under the rug though. There's just way too much here where it's like, oh, like
well, plus it's like it's funny because the Rockets themselves are kind of having some issues right now, especially on the offensive end, where it's like if things continue to go bad for them on that end and KD shows frustration, and it's like I said, all of this is going to be under a microscope now, and they're going to be scrutinized at every point, and especially Kevin Durant. So it's like I think you're right. Like they probably can't sweep this under. You're going to have to address this at some point, especially if your half court offense stays as bad as it has been.
My thing is with this is that, and I saw somebody say is that Kevin Durant has had an issue, or has allegedly had an issue at damn near all these places, which has caused him to once again leave the team, whether it was Golden State, and I'll just say Draymond. Big reason for that potentially. Phoenix, you could choose a bunch of different things. Even before Brooklyn as well. Like there were constantly like talking points of, oh, this is an issue. This is an issue. It's always surrounding Kevin Durant, but it's never like Kevin Durant is like, I never had anything to do with it. And then you have moments like this come out, and it's like, well, it's hard if this is your burner and this was you. Like it is hard to sit here and continue to defend him.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. We'll see what this leads to, if anything. But I'm curious to see what happens here in the future with them. But all right, let's move on. I want to talk about another future Hall of Fame player, one who just retired, Chris Paul. He officially announced on his Instagram, like, was it like a couple weeks ago now or a week ago?
A couple, yeah.
That he is officially retiring. after he was with the Clippers this year for what was supposed to be somewhat of a farewell tour, then gets released. The Clippers start playing better. He eventually finally gets traded to the Raptors, who then release him. And then so now he's saying he's done. He's going to retire. It's sad. I think it's like it's kind of like sad, and like he really is like a legit Hall of Fame like great player. One who was firmly ingrained in this like era of basketball as like a legendary player in my mind. I mean, if you look at his accolades, he's got a couple gold medals. He's he's second ever in assists, just behind John Stockton. He's got over 20,000 points as well, 12 All-Star nods, 11 All-NBA teams. He was on the All-Defensive team 7 times. So fantastic career for him. Unfortunately, he never won a title. A lot of that had to do with like the circumstances around him. Part of it, I'm not gonna say like it wasn't ever on his shoulders as well, but like just the constant injuries and like what was going on with him in certain teams, whether it be the Clippers, the Suns, the Rockets, like wherever he was. There were always times where he had a chance, but just was never able to fully actually get that title. But despite all that, I still consider him to be like a for sure Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree, and I've seen for the past 5 years, even before that. People constantly call him CP0 rings just because that was like the one thing holding him back in his career. But I genuinely think like he's such a legend of the game, and not just like from a actual like playing perspective, but also just from a knowledge perspective, like someone who was telling refs things in the game. We've heard all the stories about like, oh, he knows this over the
like
ref.
the untucked jersey thing.
Yeah, the untucked jersey thing. I've seen like the blind spots on the court as well, like certain things that to get away with. There's so many things where it's like he's a legend, not just from a actual playing standpoint, but like I can already say like he's gonna be a hell of a coach. Yeah, 'cause I think it's only a matter of if, or not a matter of if, a matter of when, opposed to if, because I like his knowledge and intelligence for the game, I think is unmatched, really, like with anybody we've seen at this level at all. There's very few where you could say like, oh, you're meant to be a coach, and he is one of the players where it's like he's literally made every team he's been on better, and has influenced so many different players, from a Shea to a Wemby to hell, making Blake Griffin potentially a Hall of Famer. Like these are all things that like Chris Paul had an effect on just by like you being there and being around the team and being such a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy nicknamed the point god, right? For a reason. He truly is like a great passer, great defender, knew how to manipulate a game so well, and like the Lob City does not happen without him. And I think you're right, like the development of other players like Shea and all these other places he went to, he seemed to be a positive force until this last stint with the Clippers. And while there was always the stuff about like his, maybe he's a little too intense, to like a grading personality, things like that, but look, man, for a guy his size to last in the league as long as he did and play as well as he did, I think it says something. I mean, think about, he played every game for the Spurs last year, man, and he was well loved on that team, and he went out there and played his ass off despite Wemby being out most of that season. So, I mean, just really, this is just a shout out to Chris Paul. CP3 is a legendary basketball player, and I hope we see him in the Hall of Fame sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on, though, man. Let's talk some. We're post All-Star break, so we're in this final sprint towards the playoffs. So lots of interesting games still going. Lots of teams still jockeying for position as we get closer to finalizing the seeding for the playoffs. So we just want to talk real quick about some games coming up that we were interested, some matchups we wanted to look at, but then maybe also just some players and teams in general we're looking forward to watching as we get closer to playoffs. So Jay, I'll start with you, man. Which one do you got first? Do you want to start with games?
I'm actually gonna start with like I have a couple of like just second half like trends to keep an eye on just in general, and one of them is very near and dear to my heart, and that is, we're gonna stick it to the matchup format. It is OKC versus Health.
Yeah,
this OKC team, they're 42-14 now, but and any other team you look at that and say, damn, you that's great for an All-Star break, but considering where this team was before that first Spurs matchup, I'll say, and to see it now, it is like, oh, Like it's not been good even when the team was fully healthy. But since then, they've only gotten more injured and constantly battled more injuries. Jalen Williams had just played 26 games. Isaiah Hartenstein has just played 30 games. I don't care. Regardless, this team needs to find ways to gel. And especially since, getting McCain, I think this team is heading in a direction where it's like they have to figure things out. And I think they will. I just think like I think they're good at evaluating where they are and evaluating what needs to happen and getting there. And I think it's just a matter of like actual results. So that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. Like health is like Jalen Williams. Like I need him to get back and see this team like fully healthy, and like that is such a big thing as you get towards the playoffs. Like who are the healthier teams with most momentum as you head in towards the playoffs, and how hot can you get and carry that into the playoffs? I actually, because I did have an individual game matchup I was watching for OKC, and it was like another team I was kind of interested in for somewhat similar reasons you are with OKC, and that's they're playing the Cavs here this next week on the 22nd. So yeah, like 5 days here. But yeah, so there's a Thunder Cavs matchup on Sunday the 22nd that I really want to watch, and it's because the Cavs now with James Harden and some of the other new guards they got, and Schroeder and Ellis, I really want to see. Like they've been surging lately. They're on a pretty good streak here. They've won 9 of their last 10. They're on a 5-game win streak currently, going into post All-Star break. And I think this is a team that, like we talked about a lot. Like they had a rough start to the beginning of the season. They've been dealing with the injuries, whether it was Garland or whoever else. DeAndre Hunter was kind of, I don't know if he regressed. It just wasn't fitting in too well. They were also like Mobley injury, figuring out what to do with Jared Allen. But since Harden has gotten there with this short little like window that we've gotten to see with him with the Cavs, it has looked extremely well. Like the relationship or like the play style that he has with the bigs, with the Cavs, and then how he can play off of Donovan Mitchell. And you can still go to him whenever you need to get a bucket, but you can have Harden running things with his elite passing and knowledge. Like I'm really curious. Like I think the Cavs are a team that we could see. I mean, right now they're only a game and a half behind the Celtics for the 2nd seed. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we were looking at the Cavs if they were end up being the 2nd seed by the time we got to the playoffs. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they continued on that kind of trajectory. So I really want to see that. And then a matchup against OKC with all your new guys, like that's a great way to show that you're on the right path.
You read my mind because my next matchup that I want to talk about was Cleveland versus themselves.
Okay, yeah.
It's not just the Harden Mitchell dynamic and like how can they work, how can they figure things out. For me, it's mostly a defensive thing, and I think like naturally like when you think of James Harden, you think about what you're getting on the offensive end. But I do think at the same time you need to see more from the Cavs defense as a whole. Because I think that's something that has made them good, especially come the regular season, leaving out the postseason, which has made the Cavs successful during the regular season, has been a part of their defense, has been the defense, and Evan Mobley is a big part of that. And I think for me, if there's one player that I need to see like on the, hell, I said probably even expand to the Eastern Conference that I don't think you're living up to what we would have come to expect from you from last season, it would be Evan Mobley. He is that defensive hub for them. You can say Jared Allen when he's not on the court as well. And I think when you have James Harden, you have the offensive capacities of Donovan Mitchell as well, you need to balance it out with solid defense, and Evan Mobley is that anchor point for it, and I need to see it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Because without him, like I said, the Jared Allen experiment with him and James Harden has been good, but now like when you add Mobley back in there, what does that look like? Yeah. I can't wait to see that. And then Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder can make up for a lot for you when they aren't out there for your defense and playmaking for sure. Okay, the next game I was looking at was on the 23rd. We got Spurs and Pistons. I don't think the Pistons are going to relinquish that number 1 spot in the East at all. I mean, they're 5.5 ahead of the Celtics right now. They're 40-13, which means they're the first team to get the 40-20 club. 40 wins before 20 losses. So they're good on them for getting that done. That's usually a good sign for you going into the playoffs. I don't know who knocks off the Pistons in the East, but to see them going up against the Spurs will be a lot of fun because that's a potential finals matchup that we could see later on. So very exciting there, like potential preview. But Jalen Duren against like a Wemby. You got Cade Cunningham going against those rookies, and how that team likes to attack. And just two teams that can play physical and get after you. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. I'm going to bounce off your last point, which was rookies. And the big thing that I'm interested for is just the rookie of the year race. And I think it really comes down to, well, I think the three favorites, and especially looking at the, like FanDuel Sportsbet and just looking at the odds, it's a Cooper Flag versus Concanopoulos versus VJ Edgecombe type of situation. And I think the way it seems to work, and you can base this off of previous years, is just who has the hot hand for the longest stretch of time, especially come the second half. Because I think like that is really the key. Like if VJ Edgecombe was to have if he was averaging, well, it's tough with the Sixers actually being relatively healthy this season, but
relatively.
But if he takes advantage of the Paul George minutes while Paul George is on suspension, and is averaging like 25 during the remainder of that stretch, I don't see anyone beating him for Rookie of the Year, just because of like that significant, like where it's 20 games of him just going off like that. It'd be tough for Cooper Flag or Concanopoulos to do something like that, and vice versa if they were to do it the same way. And I think Cooper Flag probably has the biggest green light of any of the three right there that I mentioned. Like Con at least has LaMelo there, and VJ has Maxey. So like you look at that and say like, all right, like it really is going to be, to me, who has the biggest stretch of success.
Yeah. I think Cooper Flag right now, it is kind of his award to lose, but I agree with you. If VJ Edgecombe takes advantage this last like month and a half, like he could really catapult himself to that number one spot. Especially if he's playing like in these clutch moments where they're going to him in the last 5 minutes of these close games, and he's coming through for them. Like if he has some bigger moments like that, or he continues to have bigger moments like that, I think that helps him out a lot.
Yeah. I will ask you real quick though. Like I mentioned those three, but are there any other people that like you think like, even if they're not like in contention for the actual like the award, but more so just like there, do you think like just deserve more recognition as rookies?
I mean, I'll forever mention the two in New Orleans with Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. I think they're extremely impressive, and two guys who I'm already big fans of. Looking forward to them. I also think Cedric Coward should get more of a nod. I think he's been fantastic this season, and I think he has shown that he can be a future of that franchise, if I'm being honest. Like, that's how in on him I am. So I think those are some other names to watch for sure.
Cedric Coward was the one that came to mind for me, and Derek Queen as well, and they're both fourth and fifth when it comes to odds. So.
Oh well, hey, there we go. Okay, another young player, not a rookie, but I'll kind of look at going forward is Scoot Henderson with the Trailblazers. He finally came back to play. Like the beginning of he messed up his hamstring just before the season started, and there was like, okay, maybe he'll come back around like Christmas time. Or now he just started playing right before the All-Star break. He's played 4 games this season now. Hasn't looked bad, honestly. Like obviously it's a very small sample size, but the passing is still very elite in my mind, and you see that he can get to his spots and score at times. Just need to be a little bit more aggressive and consistent on that end. So I'm curious. And the Trailblazers have been, because of injuries and other stuff going on. I mean, Lillard, Drew Holiday, like, and obviously how high up they drafted Scoot. Like they're relying on him to develop as their lead point guard. So I'm curious to see over this next month and a half, and this is a team right now that's slated to be in the play-in tournament, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I'm curious about Scoot and just the Trailblazers in general with like how they ramp up as they get closer to the play-in tournament, because I mean they've perennially been out of all of this for the past several years, basically since Lillard has been gone. Like this team hasn't had a lot of success, so now they're starting to play a little bit better. I want to see how him and Shaedon Sharpe continue to develop. Scoot's got a lot of catching up to do, but like it has looked well in this small sample size. And then also Donovan Clingan, man, like I don't think he's getting talked about enough as just he has been playing extremely well, man, like extremely well. Like as like a screener, he's not afraid to shoot the three. He's not doing it at volume, but like he is working on that. He's good in the low post, like, and his defense is fantastic. So it's been fun to watch him really become like one of these better just centers in the league. And he's got a fun matchup actually coming very soon against the Timberwolves. And like the games I've watched of him in the past where he's gone against Rudy Gobert have been highly entertaining. So I'm curious to see like I want to watch that game specifically for that matchup between Clingan and Rudy.
I think any big is like kind of like is always looking at that matchup at Rudy as the like formerly like stout defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on the defensive end, it almost feels like it. If you're big, you're like, oh, like this is my chance to boost stats up a little. But yeah, sticking to another play-in team potentially.
Bro, what are they listening to in that studio right now?
What's crazy is that like
That
I keep like
bass is hitting.
I understand it.
No, I was just like that one song that just started. I was like, good guys.
So speaking of play-in teams, the Hornets, as of right now, are currently set to disrupt what would be the typical play-in destiny of the Heat, Bulls, Hawks, because the Hornets are currently in a play-in spot. They are 26-29, but are 9-1 in their last 10 games, which I think one of those wins also includes an OKC win. But I think that this is a team that like really could make a push in the second half of the season. Where you have like Conkin up as we mentioned, but LaMelo Ball and just a really solid collective team as a whole. And I think a well-coached team as well, and they are continuing to develop, and we're seeing a lot of like potential with this youth. So I think they're a team that like I'm not saying they're gonna blow the door off the hinges, but I think like play-in is like, hey, like we're happy with this result.
Yeah, 100%. I think they no matter how the season ends. Well, I shouldn't say no matter how, but I think if they continue on the trajectory that they have been, this calendar year, I think the Hornets will be happy with like how this season has gone for them. Like as they've gotten healthier, they've gotten a better look at their younger players. Like Brandon Miller, who's been hooping. I can watch him play all the time, man. He's fun to watch. But then between him and then Konga Nipple and like all these other younger guys, it's been fun to watch and Musa Diabate, man. Good Lord, talk about another fun young center to watch. So it's like, yeah, the Hornets got something cooking over there, and it's been fun to watch them like put it together as the season has gone on. All right, I have one more. I had to get one sicko pick in before the show ended. So I had the Pelicans and the Jazz, who play each other twice over the next couple of weeks. And if the Jazz truly are just going to be sitting, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for the season, I don't know what's going on with Lowry, but if they truly are going to be sitting those guys, then that means we're just going to get even more of a look at these younger guys like George, Collier, and Sensabaugh, who I'm a big fan of, like against guys like on the Pelicans where I could see them. They're a team that's kind of, in my mind, they actually are trying to win. They just haven't been that good. But it's still fun to watch like Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears and Trey Murphy and all those guys. Like Trey Murphy's not like one of the younger guys, but it's fun to watch them develop these guys and try to figure out what exactly are the Pelicans like going forward. And so like a matchup against the Jazz is kind of fun for me because it's like, okay, we have all this young talent here for non-serious teams, but like let's see how they compete against each other.
Yeah, I agree, and I think especially this is just a whole like I think a matchup for everyone's going to be focused on the top half. What does the West look like? I can't even say the top half of the West because it's the entirety of the West, and what that looks like. But I am just as interested, really in, I don't say the tank race, but like really the mid tier race for both conferences, because I think we'll see a lot of good matchups from both sides, and then of course at the bottom there isn't besides the Nets, I still think every team has like positive viewing points, and even then the Nets have Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what teams maybe make like a late season surge here to even get themselves into like play-in contention. Like I think the Bucks in the East could make a push once Giannis comes back and is healthy. Like Cam Thomas looked good for them in the limited playing time he's had so far.
Usman Deng, who they got from OKC,
looks good.
He did fry OKC.
Yeah,
which
good for him, man.
Is like, yes, that's a cool moment, but I think, and I saw somebody say this, is that this is just as it's really a good sign that a player like that was being, not a good sign.
No, I see what you're saying. I think it is because we always talk about the parity in the league, and they're talking about expanding the league, and it was like, oh, the talent in the league. But like, if guys like that aren't getting minutes, but then when they do, they can shine like that. That just shows that like, okay, like there is a lot of talent in this league.
I saw somebody say exactly like this player should not have been sitting as like an OKC DNP for multiple seasons, and like this is why the NBA is at a point for an expansion, and I couldn't agree more. Where like I've seen it in the limited minutes, but it's hard to judge that when it's like you're getting a garbage time against like the Nets, and you're just like, oh, like go out there and hoop, and it's like, oh, of course he's doing good. It's cool to see it that actually like come to fruition, especially now that Giannis isn't playing and he's getting the opportunities. If there is one final matchup that I want to take a look at, it's really the league versus the MVP, like trophy, I should say.
Yeah.
Because I think like, okay, based off of odds, once again looking at FanDuel, Shea is the favorite, Jokic is second, and Cade Cunningham is third right now, which I think is well deserved considering where the Pistons are this season. And so but besides that, like I don't want to say it's been a lackluster MVP season because Shea's had a really good season, Jokic has had a really good season, but
There's been injuries.
yes, and I do think the injuries and the NBA award rule has also helped potential MVP people like Shea, and I know Jokic is potentially close to missing. Like if he misses a couple more games, he's could be out of it as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of shapes out. But I'll ask you, like, kind of similar to the Rookie of the Year case, like, is there any players that make a late push in your mind that could potentially get shouts for MVP?
Yeah, I was thinking Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
They're the 6th seed right now, but so we know with the West, like you win a few games and you're right there at the 3rd seed near the Nuggets. I think if the Timberwolves, and I think this might happen, if they go on this like post All-Star break surge where they continue to climb up the rankings of the Western Conference, I think Ant's already been having a fantastic season, but if you have his numbers alongside this like success that the team has had, and especially if they make this late season push, I think you could see his name being mentioned a little bit more.
Yeah, his name was the first one that came to mind, especially ironically since they added Ayo Dosunmu. Like I think like that helps a lot, especially on the defensive end, and just like it really is like as much as it's an MVP award, it's also a team award, and I think that helps put the Timberwolves one step closer to making a late season push. Also, Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say that I had a couple in the East. Jaylen Brown was definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think just with the way the Celtics are currently second in the East, 35-19, and considering the like a lot of the talk going into the season about like you're kind of in a down period almost of like you're waiting for Jason Tatum to get back, for him to fully take over as that number one option. Like I do think he deserves more recognition. Is he having a better season than like a Shea or Jokic? No, but it's difficult when you've seen these players play at a high level for so long. But I do think like he deserves a lot more recognition.
Yeah. The only other player I was thinking of in the East was Donovan Mitchell. Like if the Cleveland gets up to that second seed, like we were talking about earlier, I think he would get some consideration.
You see that like the fact that they have James Harden now that potentially hurts his chances a little bit more.
I don't know. I mean maybe, but yeah, that's why he's more of a dark horse, I guess. Yeah. But in the end, I do think I have a feeling Jokic will end up with the MVP.
I was hoping.
Just that's my feeling. If he's eligible still without any injuries and all that. But hey, we'll see. I mean, look, we got another month and a half to go, so plenty of time. Well, not plenty of time. It's going to go by quick, but yeah. But this is always a fun time of the year where we see some teams really try to lose and we see some teams really try to win. So we'll see.
The duality of the NBA is crazy around this time of the year.
Yeah, jockeying for seeding and trying to get that worst spot. But yeah, all right, man. Any other matchups? Anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, that's all it for me.
We covered a lot there, so good job on us. I don't know why I'm doing that, but exciting as always to talk about the NBA. We'll be back again next week to talk some more. Excited to talk about some more matchups and some other players and teams we want to keep an eye out for. Maybe some early awards or playoff predictions as well. We'll get into that as we get closer to the playoffs. And, of course, we always can't wait for the playoffs. So thank everybody for who has been listening. NFL content is not going to be going away completely. As soon as free agency ramps up here, we'll be talking about that a little bit more, as well as maybe just some team talk in general. But NBA content will be more regular as we go along weekly throughout the end of the season. So thank everybody for who's been listening and watching on YouTube. Really extremely appreciate it. Instagram as well. So if you've been watching and listening, thank you again, and we'll see you again soon.